Thank you. I hope you do that when I'm finished as well. I normally don't carry a note when I speak, but for a 10-minute session, I simply have to make sure I don't say more or less than what I plan to say. I'm the chairman of the Beyond Budgeting Roundtable, and I used to work for a company called Equinor. You might know it as Statoil, where I was heading up the implementation of Beyond Budgeting in that company. And I left that company a few years ago with a heavy heart in order to be able to work full-time on Beyond Budgeting, hence Boxness Advisory. What I want to share with you is no criticism of Agile. I'm a big fan of Agile. And according to the Agile Alliance, the first international Agile conference took place in Sardinia, year 2000, an XP conference. And I was there talking about Beyond Budgeting to a great group of people. So I've been kind of a hang-around and a fan for a long time. My message to you today is that there can be no true Agile transformation without Beyond Budgeting. And why is that? Well, several reasons. I think that the initial success of Agile which was great, had a lot to do with its birthplace in software development and how teams worked. And in big organizations, what did executives upstairs observe? Better projects, better outcomes, more happy employees. I mean, who can be against that? Hey guys, I love Agile, keep up the good work. Then Agile starts to scale. It starts to have implications for executive beliefs and behaviors. And then it wasn't that fun anymore, right? Beyond Budgeting has been going for the throat of those beliefs from day one. So a very different birthplace. We were born at corporate level as a way to run an enterprise. Then there is also something with language. You know, for an executive who is unfamiliar with rugby, I mean, that person might think that Scrum is some kind of skin disease, or Slack is about laziness, or Sprint is about running faster, or continuous delivery is about 24/7, right? So actually, some of them struggle with this language. Beyond Budgeting offer them a language that they do understand, they can relate to. They might not agree, but they do understand what we are talking about. Last but not least, again, Agile was not designed as a way to run an enterprise, right? So there was a lot of things that Agile and the manifesto, for good reasons, didn't need to have a view on. How does the corporation set targets, forecast, allocate resources, evaluate performance, reward performance, right? So when you start to scale Agile, these holes in Agile become visible. And that is also a reason why so many scaling projects really struggle. Beyond Budgeting are filling these holes, again, because we were born as a way to run an enterprise. So what is then Beyond Budgeting? I know that many of you know, but a little reminder, this is the model. And Beyond Budgeting is basically challenging the two main assumptions behind traditional management. Number one, you can't trust people. Number two, the future is predictable and plannable. And you know, and I know, that that is not true, right? So those are what we are rebelling against. And Beyond Budgeting is addressing both leadership and management processes, as you can see here. And what we say here about leadership, when it comes to purpose, autonomy, and transparency, values, is not that unique. And many other communities, including Agile, talking about the same things. But many of these communities and models do not seem to have reflected very much on what kind of management processes are needed to activate these good leadership intentions. Because it doesn't help to have these theory Y leadership intentions if you have theory X management processes. And that is a huge problem in organizations. So you have this lack of coherence between what is said and what is done. And a classical example, it doesn't help that we talk a lot about and loud and warm about autonomy and, you know, we trust you guys so much, we would be nothing without you and so on. But of course we need detailed travel budgets, right? This is hypocrisy, poisonous gaps between what is said and what is done. Another classic example, it doesn't help that we talk loud and warm about us and team and collaboration and together, but when it comes to rewards, it's all about individual bonus, right? Again, a classical gap between what is said and what is done. The tagline here is important, performance the right way. Beyond budgeting changes how we define performance, and it changes how we deliver performance. And if you look at these, again, coherence is key here. Not just this horizontal coherence between what is said and what is done, but also a vertical coherence, especially on the management processes. Because if you look at these management processes, they are starting out in what I would call finance territory. Right? Target setting, forecasting, resource allocation, moving into HR territory, performance evaluation and rewards. And there has to be a coherent, consistent philosophy all the way through, right? Which is not the case in a lot of companies, where HR and finance are like cats and dogs and kind of operate based on very different principles and intentions. That is also a problem. So this vertical coherence is also important. So where is the budget in Beyond Budgeting? Well, first of all, as you will see, Beyond Budgeting is about much more than budgets. But you need to do something with the budget. So many transformations regard the budget as the kind of, again, the elephant in the room, and unchallenging law of business that you can't do anything with. Well, we have actually cracked that in Beyond Budgeting because the budget is gone here. But not what the budget tried to do for us. Because if you ask a finance person, why do you make a budget? They would typically list 3 reasons. They would say that we use budgets to set targets, financial targets, sales targets. We use the budget as a kind of forecast of what next year could look like. And it's a resource allocation mechanism, handing out bags of money to the organization. And by the way, when I say budget, then I'm thinking broader than typically when you think budget, because you will think about project budgets. This is about company budgets. Those things that the budget tried to do for us is not gone, right? They are still here. But we have separated these 3 things, but you can't, because you can't solve these 3 things in one process and one set of numbers. That is a disaster, creating gaming and lowballing and negotiations and so on. Having separated, we can improve each one. We can set better targets. We can get the politics out of forecasting. We can have a much more effective and intelligent resource allocation than what a certain Mr. McKinsey could offer us 100 years ago, because he was the one that invented budgeting. It's pretty old management technology we are talking about. Amazing that it has survived that long. I could have talked for hours about what does the right-hand side mean in practice. Just one quick example from Equinor when it comes to resource allocation. Equinor does not have a traditional detailed annual investment budget, where the company sits in the autumn, the year before, and decides everything, exactly how much to invest, split exactly on these projects, and then these bags of money are handed out. Instead, there's a process based on the simple principle that the bank is always open. The line can order forward a project for approval at any time. How high up you need to go, regulated by a mandate structure. Whether you get a yes or no, decided by 2 things. How good is your project, and can we afford it as things look today? Can we afford it? That information is coming out of the forecasting process. So we are still doing what the budget tried to do for us, but in so much better ways. You can't explain the totality of Beyond Budgeting in 10 minutes. That is why we need books. And this is my new book that is just out. This is Beyond Budgeting. It is on purpose a shorter book than my previous ones, because the main target group for this book are people with limited time to read, because those are the guys we need to read. So this book you can read on a longer flight or whatever. And I have to say I'm really happy and proud that Gary Hamel said yes to write the foreword, and he wrote a great foreword. So yeah, I hope you take a look at it as well. So thank you very much.